Unqualified PK, west side swag in the groove state. Let our light shine through his word, we elevate. Let's talk about him verbally. Christ defeated death and rose from the dead bodily. Jesus is God eternally, the Alpha Omega, no fraternity.
We got friends on both sides of this fence. There's plenty of people that don't see anything wrong with this topic. And then there's plenty that do. This is something that Adrienne and I have discussed for many years.
Mm-hmm. And we've even discussed about talking it on the podcast for more than a year.
Long time.
Yeah.
Even when I shot you that text over a year ago and said, I got an idea.
Yeah.
On how to launch the podcast, but you're not going to like it. This was a big part of that. We've kind of made it clear with all the description of the podcast that we're going to get real and raw and authentic and using our life story essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But today's topic will be about abortion. And we're going to use ourselves as the illustration. We've definitely spent a lot of time thinking about this, praying about this, speaking to certain people about this. Yeah. But we're gonna talk about our abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of layers to it. I have reminded Adrienne that this is not live, that there's a chance we're not going to put this out, or at least not yet, or we'll redo it. I don't know. I don't know where this will go or how this will land with us. We certainly don't want to bring any of our loved ones any I don't know, more weight into their life, or we feel like we've counted a lot of costs to kind of being open and public about this in our lives. But who knows, maybe there's some stuff that some costs we didn't count that we might have to deal with later. Yeah. So this is going to be what Adrienne and I have an abortion, what that has looked like in our life. And just it'll eventually lead into other conversations one day of how we coped with it or try to cover it up, or it led us down multiple paths that were not healthy ultimately, and we're certainly not aligned with God's plan for our life. But today we're gonna try to stay on this one topic. So
yeah. Okay. Well, just to give a little context, this happened earlier on in our relationship. And so it is something that I feel like has gone through, we've gone through different seasons of, like, it happened, and then there were seasons of us trying to cope with it and making decisions because of the abortion decision. And to now where I feel like our hope is that this brings us back to Jesus. And And it was a decision that we made together, and ultimately believe like it was a sin. And it has been difficult at times, and it's caused some disagreements and arguments between you and I. And
That's to put it gently.
yeah, very.
That's very, very understated.
And in just a moment, I'll kind of talk about from my perspective the different turmoil and whatnot that I've dealt with and how I've dealt with it. But ultimately, why we want to bring this up and talk about it is because the hiding it and secrecy is what has also helped create a lot of pain and shame and guilt. And not that that is still not there, but the transparency and talking about it has created some healing, a lot of healing, between you and I. And it's also helped others who we've talked with. And so I'm hoping that this conversation that we have will help others. And if you have gone through this or are currently going through it or don't know how to deal with it, there is a lot of help out there. And I want to give that piece of hope to whoever might be hearing this. Because there were times where I did not know that that existed. And I'm not alone. So once the decision was made that we were going to do it, that we ended up having the abortion, I did not really know how to feel. And there was a lot of times in there where I was reminded of it. And I just wanted to like suppress it inside of me. And what that really meant was like I was boiling inside, and then I would take it out on you and in different arguments that had nothing to do with the abortion. But it could be an argument about whether the chicken was sitting in the sink long enough or not, or I don't even know. But it just came out such an ugly way. And it was not helpful in our marriage at all, of it coming out in such a negative way. But having that decision created a lot of shame and guilt and so much pain of, well, this was our biological kid, and it created I already had a insecurity of like, I'm not a mom. And then that brought on even more insecurities of, not only am I not a biological mother, but now I have literally aborted one that would have been mine, ours. And just the hurt and the pain that I've, dealing with that and living with it year after year was not anything that was healthy. And I know you saw that in me, and at times you didn't even know like how to help or what to do, or you had to watch a lot of the internal struggle within me and not even really know it.
Yeah, this is such a big topic. I know there'll be other episodes where we'll speak on this topic. This is probably more just to kind of put something out on the table that's been in our life, and as we start dealing with different topics of shame and guilt and just things that we believe that the enemy excuse me, that we believe that the enemy uses to beat us down and try to kill, steal, and destroy. This is certainly one of them that has been in our marriage, and it's affected us differently. For me, and I guess some of the people we've talked to in the last, I don't know, few years, I don't know, that's accurate to say. It seems like maybe the last few years we started to share this in personal settings,
Mm-hmm.
which has also been interesting, the amount of times that then we've heard, oh yeah, us too. But it certainly impacted us differently, and I don't know if this is me. I don't know. I'm just gonna say how I feel. Like I hurt more because of your hurt and seeing how you felt about it than necessarily how I felt about it. There's numerous reasons why we made that decision, and some of them we're just simply not going to discuss because we feel like it could put weight on others, and this was our decision. And no one else is responsible. And so, yeah, I think we'll just leave those things alone. But for me, it was like kind of just, I don't know if buried is the right term, but it was like we made the decision. I'm moving on.
Mm-hmm.
If I live in that thought of, hey, our faith says no, and if I let the enemy just keep shaming me, I mean, I don't know, I'd spiral and just keep a lot of anger and animosity, and I don't know. And so,
And for me, I definitely did. I kept that anger and the animosity. And I made that decision. And yet I at times, well, I have regretted it. I have felt very convicted of it. I do believe that it was a sin. And there are times where, again, I've been reminded. And when have I been reminded of it? I've been reminded of it at the time of year that this happened. I've been reminded of it when others have been pregnant or going to a baby shower, or I've opted out of going to a baby shower because of the anger and the guilt and the shame that has brought. And now, like, I am so thankful for God's presence in my life and for the true forgiveness that has created, and the true forgiveness that you have also given to me because of the stuff that I've brought into our marriage, because I haven't actually been willing to deal with the anger, the shame of that decision that we made. I've wanted to put so much blame on so many other people, and that's not right. Like, this was a decision that I made, that we made together. And I'm sorry that I have missed out on things for others and celebrating the gift of life that pregnancy and a baby brings. And one thing I am so thankful for now is for the people in our life. And there have been a few babies born. And one of my favorite things is holding a baby. And I've been so very grateful that there has been that new life in our life, both spiritually and also physically around us, to where there's healing within me getting to hold a baby now. And like, I am so reminded of God's love and generosity in our life. God knows like the desires of your heart. And I firmly believe that. And getting to hold babies now is such a gift that I will not take for granted. And I am very thankful for you, and for like, you have also helped bring people into our life, younger and older, but some of those, like without you, those babies that I now get to hold would not be a part of our life, because it's the relationship that you have with that family or whatnot. But
Well, yeah. I mean, that's God. That's his handiwork.
mm-hmm.
You know, we've talked a lot about just how uncanny these different things, like just your heart's desire, and you look back and you're like, whoa, that's crazy that that's how that thing worked out, or that's what's in our life, or and certainly being around some younger, when I say younger, 20s, you know, and then them having kids, and just how they allow us to be in their life. And yeah, I was thinking about like how grateful, how cool it's been with our friends, and how encouraging they've been with this topic. Especially when whenever you've made comments like, well, I don't feel like, or I'm not a real mom, how quickly some of our friends have come to defend that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there'll be episodes about blended family and you being a step parent, and I don't know what that's like. Um, we've just learned that through being vulnerable and open, um, there's been a lot of healing, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of relatability, encouragement.
Mm-hmm. And the relatability is not necessarily that, like, there have been some that have also had an abortion, but because the transparency that we've been open, it has created conversations for them where they feel other people have felt safe to share things, and it has created a lot of freedom and healing, for them and for us both. You know, I was thinking about this episode, and I feel like early on in our marriage, I was so mad with various things, but ultimately, like, it started, or it stemmed from having this abortion. And I don't remember when you sent me a text, but there were times where I felt like I would bring it up and then it would just create an argument, because it's like, well, why are we focusing on this? Or why is this being brought up? Or where really I just at times just wanted to share the feelings or emotions that I was having. And I didn't know how to do that in a respectful way. And I've learned a lot through the process of all of this. But I feel like there was a point where there was a change in how I addressed this or how you addressed it. And at times it was like it's something that shouldn't be talked about. I felt like earlier on when we actually decided to do it. But then I remember you sending me a text kind of out of the blue. And it was something that I was not expecting. I think I was at work when I read it on my Apple Watch. And I was like, what in the world has stemmed this from you? But you sent a text apologizing for how the topic of the abortion had gone on in our marriage. And I believe you apologized for like us having it. I know that was not something that either one of us growing up or even as adults thought, oh, we're going to have an abortion. Like that's never something that we would have thought about that would be something that we would even do. And yeah, we did. But that text was something I feel like in our marriage that helped change the trajectory of having conversations and bringing it up and then being transparent with others. And that part was super healing for me, you sending that text.
I don't remember the text, really. I mean, I vaguely do, and I certainly don't remember what prompted it. For people listening, no, we never went and got any kind of professional help or met with any like pastors or whatnot. That's been something that many people have asked, or encouraged, and we didn't. And I'm sure they're right. I'm sure that probably would have been more helpful to do that. We didn't. And I'm currently writing a book right now. And there's some details to this topic that I might put in the book that I just won't say out loud because I'm that ashamed about on just how I handled some of it. But I might put it in the book. I don't know. It's probably the most just I don't know, cowardly, shameful thing maybe in my life. So I'm certainly not going to say it out loud, but I might put it in the book. Oof. But yeah, I mean, that text of just trying to reconcile this and find what we used to have together. And not only that, like, let's make it better.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have it be better than what it was when we first got together, and which we're still working on that. We're still working on that. There's a lot of healing that has been happening and will happen. We certainly got off track quite a ways for a few years. Off track meaning like not what the Bible recommends.
Yeah.
On how to live and what choices to make, and we're back trying to follow that, and plan to illustrate quite a few things of just in our opinion what not to do, and why we think that following Jesus is the best practice.
I think, this is a topic that, again, if statistics say 1 in every 4 women have had an abortion. So it definitely does happen. And one thing that has been difficult for me to really accept is that Jesus died on the cross even for that. And he did. And I believe that. And in the past, I lived a life of I did not believe that. And there's not a sense of hope. And there's so much the devil will use that against me. And that's part of wanting to talk about it. Not to say, oh, you should go out and do this too. But that God has died for, or Jesus has died for us. And there's hope in that. And I've learned that God is faithful. Even when I've made a decision that I cannot undo. And that baby will never be held by you or I. And yet God is still faithful in our life. And, the devil has said, and I've said, believing that, I'm not a mom. And that's not true either. It just looks different. And I am so thankful for my role in your daughter's life, our daughter's life. And that's not something that I take for granted. And I will not do that. Because Jesus died for it. And that's one way that I can show that my faithfulness to him is to be fully present and involved and joyful for the roles that I do have. And not just with Riley, but with so many other kids through school and work and other people in our life. And so
a huge reason we're doing this podcast is for believers, for us that believe. There's something called spiritual warfare. And I understand that if you don't believe in all this, you would think this sounds goofy and magical, and I get that. But we truly believe that, and this is really hard to do because we're human. It's really hard to not view other people as the enemy, but in the Bible it talks about the battle is not between flesh and blood; it's a spiritual battle, and it's really hard to apply that at times, and not just be pissed at someone else or blame someone else or whatever, but to fight the spiritual battle, which is we're us doing this podcast, we're trying to wage a war with shame, with fear, with anxiety, all the tools that the enemy uses to beat the crap out of us.
mm-hmm.
I mean, the world seems so heavy right now. I mean, it's like everyone we talk with is just worn out and don't know which way is up anymore. And technology just seems to be advancing so quickly. And just everything, politics, everything. Everything seems to be on like warp speed now. And so this podcast, like ultimately, that's really what we're doing. We're waging a war with the enemy, and we're trying to tell people about Jesus and what he can do for them, and ultimately how he can save them, break chains off. Yeah, like even when I say this kind of stuff, like I'm like almost feel a little bit corny because I grew up hearing about all the chains breaking and spiritual warfare, and I was, I never. It's one thing about writing this book. I'm like reading these words back to myself and like, man, yeah, I knew the songs. I knew how to lift my hand up during worship, but did I really believe this stuff? Did I really believe that there was spiritual warfare and it was raging all around us? And nope. No, I don't think so. But I do now. And I've lived plenty of years and made plenty of bad decisions. And seen God show up through all of it. Somehow through all of it. That I can't be convinced otherwise anymore. Mm-hmm. And I've been saying that now for the last couple of years. I can't not do this. I can't not. Different doors are opening. I don't really want to go and be a public speaker. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I want to be obedient. And man, it seems like I'm going to be asked to go do some stuff I don't really want to do. Mm-hmm. Do I really want to do this podcast? Sort of, but sort of not. The other podcast that one was way easier. That one was way easier. But I want to be obedient. Yeah. And so this is what we think is part of that. Right. But what I know I really like is when I see other people get some wins and some victories. I know I like that. Like that's one of the few things that like in life that I know. I know that I know that I know when I see people wrestling with fear and anxiety and addiction and shame or whatever. That stuff is real. Yeah. I have a lot of people in my life. I have a lot of conversations, a lot. Deep ones, heavy ones. And that stuff is everywhere. And that's a battle that I want to fight and try to help encourage and motivate. And it's tiring. It can get tiring. But it's rewarding. There's nothing like it. And so I know we'll talk a lot more about this.
Yeah, and like you said before, I mean, there's so many layers to this that, I mean, we are wanting to walk this journey cautiously. Putting this out there is not easy because it's not something, again, it's not something to be glorified at all. But again, God has been in our life and really use this as a part of being transparent to really show who Jesus is through the difficult parts of our life and the decisions that we've made. And there's definitely still been consequences to that decision in difficult conversations that have been had that, and yeah, it's just not been easy to go and tell some people close to us that this is a decision we made. but you have also reminded me and us at times with that it says in the Bible, like, we're washed white as snow. And that concept has been difficult to really, like, believe in without at times. But man, I don't know, like, what I would do without that. We are washed clean.
And everyone wants that.
Yeah.
Everyone is, or whether they say it or not, I don't care who's listening or watching this that says, nah, I'm good. No, you're not. Every single person wants to feel that. Well, if that seemed like a strange ending, it's because it was. Last night we filmed the whole episode, and when we downloaded the video and the audio, come to find out, half of the audio was bad. We were able to salvage most of it, but it kind of cut off the end of what you were just listening to, which was what we recorded last night. So we thought we would add this piece in at the end of this episode to give context to why that might have seemed like a strange ending. We appreciate you listening to this episode. This has been one that has weighed heavy on us for a lot of different reasons, but we appreciate you tuning in to this one. And we're going to have, we've been having Adrienne close the episodes in prayer, which is what we originally had, but the audio didn't make it. Call it what you want. We think it's spiritual warfare because we have had so many little strange technical difficulties just trying to get this thing going, let alone this specific episode. But we're going to have Adrienne close this episode out in prayer.
Sounds good. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the time that we could be together and again, just come to you and acknowledge you once more about how much you love us and are there for us. And just the reminder that you forgive us and that we are washed clean of our sins. And we glorify you for that. We are so thankful for your life and your example. And thank you again for those who are listening and for the presence that you bring into this home of ours. We love you in your name. Amen.
Amen.